Hey, quick note before this video starts. I don't know what the heck I did to the frame rate of this video. Everything's just kind of like blurry and stuff like that. I don't know what I did, but I'll get it fixed next video. So I'm aware of it. Sorry about that. Hope you still enjoy the video. Let's start the video. Hey everybody, long time no see. It's been a little bit longer than I was anticipating. January was quite the crazy month. It was rough. I got sick, wait, let's back up. We moved, I got sick, my wife got sick, then we started to get healed, then my kid got sick, and then I got sick again. January was just, whew, glad that's over. Glad you weren't there with me because you would not have fun either. This video has been a while in the making. I started writing this in the beginning of January, but because it took all of January just to get healthy and actually to have the time to make a video, I'm finally sharing it with you today. My goal for this video is to get it under 10 minutes long. I'll see if I can. Hopefully I can. But this video is a preview of the JavaScript ecosystem in 2019. There's a lot of big things coming up in 2019 that I am very excited about. So many things I want to play with, and I figured that I would share my excitement with you and let you get just as excited about it with me. So I could talk more, but I don't really think that you care about that. So let's just jump into what you have to look forward to in 2019 in the world of JavaScript. The first big thing, of course, that I'm always excited about is React has a huge upcoming year of things planned. The first big thing that I've talked about already, I have videos that you can already watch about it, is React Hooks. React Hooks is going to be a huge shift in the world of React. Just as big as when we went from React.createClass to class components, and now we're going from class components to function components with state, side effects, all those things, thanks to React Hooks. It's not out yet. It's going to be stable soon this year. I anticipate big things for hooks to change the way people write most of their React applications today. The other big thing in the world of React, they also, the React team had this huge post at the end of December that actually outlined all the big things coming up this next year. I encourage you to read it if you haven't already, because everything in there is exciting. But the other big thing in there that I'm very excited about is suspense for data fetching. Pretty much filling in the hole that Redux has filled in for all these past years. The question being, if I have a big React applications and I have to asynchronously get data from somewhere, how do I do that what is the best way to do that in React? And React's never really had an answer to that story until this blog post outlined the future when they'll have that answer, and that's suspense for data fetching. Pretty much letting you fetch data in a way that looks sync, but it's actually doing async things. That's due to this magic of actually throwing a promise. You might have heard that talked about in the past. React is leveraging the behavior of try-catch to pretty much let you write code that looks synchronous, but actually is doing async things in JavaScript, which is very clever, very clever. There's other big things in React. React Fire is very exciting. That's the code name for pretty much a refactor of the React DOM. It's had many years of growth. They want to repair that and just put their learnings into it. They're doing huge things in React Native. They're pretty much re-architecting the entire thing, taking their past learnings and doing that there. All these big things in React coming up. It's going to be a big year for React, as it always is. It's always amazing to me that no matter what, React always seems to just have new things that get me just as excited as the previous year, and this year is no exception. Staying in the world of JavaScript frameworks, vue.js, I don't talk about it that much. I don't use it day to day, but I'm a big admirer of vue.js. I think they do an amazing job of taking all the best ideas from all their peer frameworks and just cherry picking those best ideas and incorporating it in a very holistic manner into the Vue framework itself. And there was a blog post that I've linked to in the link to blog post in this video that talks about, it's a preview of Vue.js 3.0. And the blog post is incredible. Some of the things that they're outlining about what they're going to be doing for Vue.js 3.0 makes me very excited about the plans they have for it. Also, I'm just always amazed that, by and large, Vue.js is powered by one person. I know there's a team around him, but he's definitely the core creator of all these things. Maybe Vue.js 3.0 will be different in that respect. I'll share that team a little bit more, but they're pretty much, you know, when hooks came out for React, the vue.js creator also made a very quick, hacky, but still functional implementation of hooks in Vue. It's just an amazing framework, and just the things that they have planned for Vue.js 3.0 is very exciting. I will definitely be talking about it on this video because I think it's definitely worth your attention to know about what's going on in that world. So let's also talk about CSS. CSS is kind of like the unsung hero of the web. There's always those fun Twitter debates about CSS, which I will never get involved in until I do, because it's kind of fun to just play with fire a little bit there. But I also predict really big things for CSS this year as well. Pretty much like a revitalization of what it means to use CSS in a modern web application. The first thing is CSS and JS. I expect that to actually grow in usage this year, mostly led in part by styled components library and the emotion library. Those libraries are pretty similar at this point. They've kind of reached parity, which shows a maturation in the CSS and JS space that maybe it's been, by and large, solved. Not to say that it's finished, but most of the edge cases that those libraries were trying to figure out have kind of, you know, they've converged in a large part. But I definitely anticipate that companies, teams are going to start looking to CSS and JS more, just due to the increased team productivity that it provides. CSS is hard. I believe CSS is very hard, and the hardest part about CSS is the C in CSS, which is that cascade. And CSS and JS helps you wrangle that cascade. It is the cascade wrangler. Patented me. You can't use that anywhere else unless you get my permission. If you do start using CSS and JS, let me know. I'm very excited to hear your thoughts about it, because it definitely is a hot or cold, a love-hate relationship that most people have with CSS and JS. I'm definitely have a love, but I was only until I actually tried it out. It was hate until you tried it, then it was love. It was good. I'm also very excited about CSS Houdini. It's been incrementally making progress, and I think if they actually implement the layout API, CSS Houdini is like the umbrella for many parts of these new APIs that they're providing to the actual CSS engine in browsers. The layout API is the one that I'm most excited about, because essentially it allows developers to natively write alternate layout behaviors for CSS. So right now when you have an element, you can do display block, right? Display block, display inline block, display flex, display grid. These are all different layout algorithms that are hard-coded into CSS itself. This layout API that I'm so, it's starting to be developed in Chrome, so maybe by the end of this year it'll actually be a little bit more widespread, and you can kind of, if you have an evergreen browser support, you could use it. With layout API, potentially you can actually have display masonry. So you can actually create custom layout for your application without having to use, you know, JavaScript to then augment it on top of it. It's just built into CSS itself. If the layout API hits this year, I'm very confident that its usage will explode, and just the increased accessibility and customizability of CSS will just allow for a huge renaissance in its usage. Coupled with that is CSS Grid. I feel like people have been talking about it, they've been whispering about it, but I think this year it's starting to be the time that the CSS community collectively decides that this is the year that it's safe to use CSS Grid. It was safe last year. It was even safe in 2017 for, you know, evergreen browsers, but because of just how the browser landscape has changed this year, there's always like an extra year of just kind of trepidation, but this year I think is definitely gonna be the year that Grid takes off, and we'll see a lot more people using it in their applications as new ones are made, as they just augment existing ones. I need to learn more about Grid. I don't know nearly as much as I wish I did, but I'm pretty confident that's going to be the big grower in terms of new CSS tech this year. Webpack 5 is coming out this year. I'm just excited about that. That's really what it is. It's going to be the biggest feature of Webpack 5, which I've been waiting for forever, is support for offline caching. Pretty much when you start up a Webpack server, it has to, you know, crawl your entire modules and transpile and do all these things. And when you kill that Webpack node process, you lose all that state. With Webpack 5, they're actually going to cache that state to disk such that the next time you spin up Webpack, it's just ready to go. What's interesting is that Webpack seems to have a almost yearly release, a major release. I don't know if that's on purpose, if that's just the cadence of it. Webpack 5, I anticipate just more increased pushing things forward. TypeScript, I'm sad I wasn't here in January, because it feels like if there was one word that could summarize January on Twitter, tech Twitter at least, it was TypeScript. Everybody and their neighbor's cow was talking about TypeScript, wondering, what is this thing? Why do I care about it all of a sudden? Why is everyone talking about it? It was just this echo chamber. Everybody just like prattling on about it. And I'm no exception. I'm definitely bullish on TypeScript. Flow had its chance and it kind of squandered it with the community. And having let TypeScript take the lead there, I definitely believe that TypeScript is going to just push forward and just going to see much more widespread adoption of that, which is also great because TypeScript is a big piece of the puzzle that makes VS Code, the editor, so wonderful. VS Code is also still going to, it's already like the most popular browser already, I think in most surveys, but even this year, I'm very excited about more typical IDE features making their way into VS Code, in large part powered by TypeScript. That's the underlying IntelliSense, IntelliCode technology that actually gives VS Code its understanding and context around your JavaScript code itself. But the more IDE features I can get into VS Code that having it feel like an IDE, the happier I'm going to be. And that's definitely going to be a thing that I'm going to look forward to this year, just seeing more IDE features inside of VS Code grow, but still retain its nice text editor vibe core. And speaking of TypeScript, let's also talk about another alternate compiled to language, which is ReasonML. ReasonML is a dialect of OCaml, which is a ML language, which is all these letters and words, which I barely understand what they mean. But essentially, ReasonML can compile down to JavaScript, and it's completely type safe. That's a different type system that lets everything you do be completely 100% type safe, which is great. Type is great, but ReasonML, it's been this slow burn. The level of popularity is definitely going to start to grow this year. There's going to be more projects growing in ReasonML. I don't know if ReasonML is really going to hit a huge influx in popularity in terms of the JavaScript crowd. I think it's still going to be very much early adopters only. But personally, what I'm most excited about with ReasonML is its native story, where you can actually write ReasonML, which looks mostly like JavaScript. There's a little few gotchas, but because it also is a dialect of OCaml, you can actually compile that down to native code as well, which I'm very excited about. But I think in terms of the JavaScript world, ReasonML is still going to be early adopter stage, but I think more and more people are going to hear about it because these early adopters are very vocal about it. I've tried it out. It is pretty neat. It's just neat to try something new. Is really what it is. It's just cool to see something that is not like what I've done in the past. Just letting me think about new ways of actually coding my own JavaScript code. That's kind of the value that I see in ReasonML, is that in learning this new language, which is ReasonML, I can kind of think about how I write my JavaScript code a little bit differently, which makes me, I think, a better engineer as well. And let's delve into the world of Node. Node has been pretty steady for the past couple of releases, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, pretty rock solid. The biggest question mark in Node, which I'm most upset about, which I'm hoping, and I don't really anticipate it's going to get solved this year because it's just a hard problem to solve, is ES module support in Node. They have experimental support already. They have this roadmap of like what they're trying to do to actually get ES module supported in Node proper, but it's going to take them this year to figure that out just because of all these. It's been hashed so many times. There's a chance they might solve it this year, figuring out how to write ES modules with common JS modules copacetically without actually having to require a different extension of .mjs, which I abhor. Hopefully they can figure out a way around that, but maybe this year they'll figure out the story for ES modules in Node, maybe not. Another thing that'll be interesting to see grow this year potentially is increased usage of multi-threaded Node. In Node 11, it was finally released without a flag this past January. I'm kind of glad I actually delayed this video until February because a lot of things happened in January. There's a new built-in module into Node called Worker, and essentially it's a thread for Node where you can now create applications in Node that if they are CPU intensive, you can actually offload them off the main runtime loop to not block. You know, if you have a Express server, you have to do some expensive calculations. Rather than that expensive calculation block your IO thread trying to receive requests from incoming HTTP requests, you can actually offload that into a different thread and not have your app be blocked at all. So seeing frameworks, possibly Node frameworks, take advantage of this new feature will actually really broaden the usages and applications of Node itself. That's a huge thing. It's very small, but the implications of it is large. So look to increase multi-core usages of Node, which is weird to say, but you know, 2019, here we are. And speaking of weird things, there was a new project that was released last year called Deno, D-E-N-O, actually made by the original author of Node itself. And the interesting thing about Deno is that it is a new piece of software that lets you run. It's a Node alternative, essentially what it is. And the difference is that it actually supports TypeScript built in, and also supports ES modules built in. And it has a different way of doing. It doesn't do Node modules. It does a different thing a little bit. But it'll be interesting to see if Dino can actually grow in popularity. It's very much a toy and an experiment right now. But there is the chance that potentially maybe Dino will influence the Node community to actually figure out their ES module story, because it'll put the pressure on them. But if you write an application, you have a high chance of having it be compatible with both Dino and Node if you use some wrapper things for Node itself. But this year might see maybe an actual contender to Node itself. I don't have a high bet on that, but it's just kind of a thing that is a maybe. But if you are interested in Dino, definitely check out the website, because it is a very neat project. Now let's also talk about the Node package managers. The two main ones is NPM and Yarn. This year is going to be huge for both these package managers. They are both fundamentally rethinking what it means to install packages for a Node application. On the NPM side, they have a new package called Tink, which is rethinking how all packages are laid out in Node modules. It's in development right now, and its goal is to make installing packages as safe and as fast as possible by not having to worry about this huge Node modules folder that exists in all these different Node applications. It can kind of have a global, I think there's a global cache. Very, very interesting things as well in NPM. And then with Yarn, they've kind of just even expand, so they have this thing called plug and play, which is similar to what Tink is doing with trying to rethink what it is to do installations into Node modules. That's already working. It's already being used, at least at Facebook. But Yarn just had a huge blog post about their 2.0 efforts, and it's pretty audacious. They're trying to think of Yarn as a package manager platform, a PMP, if you will. Essentially how, if you ever used Jest, the test runner, Jest is both a test runner, but also has a lot of extension points. So you actually can use Jest to do all these different things. Like rather than just run tests, it can also lint your code. It can run coverage, all these different things, because it has these extension points. That's what kind of the Yarn team is planning for 2.0 as well. High chances they're going to finish that this year. Their team is usually pretty fast, but potentially by making it a platform, I'm intrigued, and that actually puts a lot of pressure on the NPM team to think a little bit beyond their own horizons. But it's going to be interesting to see where that influence and community think shifts this year between Yarn and NPM. Definitely a thing to look to this year. And last but not least is an interesting one, is Microsoft's influence on GitHub. That was one of the biggest news items in the past year, is Microsoft buying GitHub. I'm pretty excited about this marriage. Microsoft in many ways has kind of freed GitHub of worrying about becoming a real company, which is weird, but it means that because Microsoft now owns GitHub, Microsoft already knows how to sell things. They're a very successful company. They know how to sell things. They know how to make money. GitHub was struggling with that. If they weren't struggling with that, they could have IPO'd, but they definitely didn't. They got bought. But because they don't have to worry about trying to make sales, they can then just double down on their product, which is awesome. Like, we all love GitHub. So because of that, and we're already seeing this in the past couple of months, GitHub can actually tackle all these long-standing issues that have just bugged me about GitHub itself, that they've already started to roll out at a much more rapid pace. So I'm very excited about Microsoft enabling GitHub to become a better product. So look to that. I think by the end of 2019, GitHub will look almost unrecognizable than it does today, just because it has been just made so much nicer and prettier. I'm very excited about that. Okay, that was your preview of the JavaScript ecosystem in 2019. I definitely missed my 10-minute budget. I think I doubled that, but hopefully that was all entertaining and interesting to you. We'll see what happens at the end of this year if my predictions come true. I'm guessing around like a 65% success rate, because that's kind of hard to predict the future. I'm looking forward to coming back weekly to you again. I'm sorry I was gone. I gotta make sure that I'm healthy so that I can actually make these videos, because if you want to see me here just sniffling and just with bloodshot eyes and half a head of hair, that's not really what this channel is for. I mean, I could make this a channel about Harry's fashion advice. The number one tip would be to shower. That's the beginning and end of my fashion advice. Just shower often, more often than you think you should. It's advice I tell myself often. In any case, it's good to see you around here again. Thank you for coming back. Let me know what you think about this video. Let me know if you agree or disagree with these predictions, because we have a whole year to wait to see if they come true or not. That's kind of the fun thing. And if I'm wrong, it's not my fault because who knows what's going to happen in the future. I missed you. Hopefully you missed me. I'll see you again next week.